This conference will now be recorded.
Correct. So you people are able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the confirmation. So in the previous session, we discussed what is Snowflake, what are the data engineer responsibilities, right? So what are the tools available in the market and what is the course objective we have discussed. Okay. So today I'm going to discuss the Snowflake MPP architecture, and then we are going to see basic object hierarchy, how the object hierarchy looks like in Snowflake. Okay. So this is the agenda for today. And for some people, it might be a repetitive session. Some of the other people joined in the previous weeks. Okay, so it might be a repetitive session. So just today it will be repeated. So we have created a trial account, right? Let me log in into that account. So this is the user interface provided by Snowflake. Okay, and if you want to open any new session to run the queries, you need to click on this worksheet. Okay, the worksheet is the place where you can run your SQL queries. Okay, so let's say in the left hand side, it will show you the tables, the objects, actually the database objects we are going to discuss. You will provide it with some sample data. So let's say I want to select the data from a particular table here. Okay, so call center is my table name. So this is my database name. This is the schema name. We'll see what is the database and schema. Now I am trying to run a query called select star from this particular table. Okay, so either you can select and press this play button or control enter to execute the query. Right, it is fetching the results and displaying it here. Okay, so what happens when you execute a query? So let's discuss. So I'm showing you there are 3 layers in your particular Snowflake MPP architecture. Okay, so what is the first layer is this is the cloud services layer, right? So as soon as you submit the query, the first time the query will hit this cloud services layer. Okay, and what this cloud services layer is responsible for, right? The first layer is cloud services layer. Right? So this layer is responsible for checking the syntax of your query, checking syntax of your query. Okay. So here, let's say I'm not writing a proper query. Maybe I have missed the from clause here, right? It should throw me some error. Snowflake has to throw some error, right? So this will be done by your cloud services layer. So it is saying syntax error, unexpected this thing. So something is missing here. So it is highlighting here. So this part is done by your cloud services layer. Okay. So this is the first responsibility of your cloud services layer, syntax checking and resolving your objects. So what is resolving objects? Let's say I'm giving my table name as call center 123. Okay. So which is not existing. So it should show me that this table does not exist. So that resolving your objects is also responsibility of your cloud services layer, resolving objects. So once everything, the query is good. Yeah, I'm going to tell that what is the main difference between other data warehouse and this data warehouse. Okay, so just wait a minute. Once I complete this architecture, I'll tell you why it is different from other data warehouse. Okay. Right. So once it resolved your query, once everything is good, like your syntax is good, your objects are good, you have access on the objects. Now, this cloud services layer is responsible for generating the plan of your query. So, which is done by a component called optimizer. So any database, you take any database, every database will have a optimizer which will choose a plan or which will generate a plan and choose a least cost plan. So it is like I will give you a simple example. So let's say you're reading a book here and you want to go to chapter 10, right? You are in between. You want to go to chapter 10, right? So two ways you can go. You can go sequentially. You can flip the page by page, and you can go to chapter 10. That is sequential way. The other thing is you can use an index in the book, and you can see where is the chapter 10 is located, and you can go to that particular page number. Okay, the second one is faster when compared to the first one in some cases, right? So if, in the same way, if you want to access the data, there are multiple paths to read your data from the storage. So that thing can be done by your optimizer here. So this optimizer is part of your cloud services layer. Okay, and also this cloud services layer is responsible for metadata management. So what is metadata? What is metadata? Any idea? Okay. Let's say I'm creating a table inside my database, right? I'm creating some object, right? So every object will have some properties like what is the object name, the table name, what are the columns, what are the data types, what is the size of the data type. So all these things are called metadata, and this will be stored in another Snowflake table. Okay, so that will be in another schema called information schema. So this metadata management is also part of your optimizer. Okay, so this cloud services layer is called brain of your Snowflake. So it is going to check the syntax, generate the plan, do the metadata management and transaction management. So it has a lot of responsibilities here. Okay, right. Now this is your cloud services layer. And coming to the second layer, this is called compute layer. Okay, and this is where your virtual warehouse comes into picture. Compute layer. So it will give you some computational power to you to run some query. Okay, so that will be provided by a virtual warehouse here. Virtual warehouse. So it is like your processor of the system kind of. Okay, so if you want to run some query and bring the data, retrieve the data, or you want to load the data, right? So in that cases, this compute layer will switch on a virtual warehouse and run your query. So if you see here, when I'm running this particular query, actually you can see the virtual warehouse here. Okay, this is a virtual warehouse given by Snowflake to us. You can create your own virtual warehouse also. I'll show you that. Okay, and this virtual warehouse comes with t-shirt based sizes actually. So see here. So you have these sizes: extra small, small, medium, large, like this. Okay, so let's say this particular query is taking 1 hour time. I want to execute it quickly. Maybe I want to change the virtual warehouse size to small. Okay, so I can resize this virtual warehouse and I can run this query here. Okay, so there is a compilation error, right? It is executing on the small virtual warehouse now. Okay, so in order to execute any query, like whether it is a select query or copying the data from your cloud location to your table, any kind of thing that involves some computation needs your virtual warehouse. So without a virtual warehouse, your query cannot run here. Okay, so this is really very important thing. Okay, so and you have different t-shirt size virtual warehouses, and depending on the size of the warehouse, you are going to pay the money to the Snowflake. Let's say I'm using an extra small virtual warehouse, right? I'm using an extra small virtual warehouse. I will be paying some amount, and if I use small virtual warehouse, I will be paying more amount than extra small because the resources are more here. Okay, okay, so like in order to execute some query or copy the data, you need a computing power. So that is in your compute layer. So that comes with your virtual warehouse with different t-shirt sizes. Okay, clear guys on the second layer, or any questions here? Okay,
All good.
so yeah, please. Anyone has some question?
No, I said everything is good as of
Okay, good. Yeah, good. Yeah. So let's go back. Something. What is the main? Yeah, this one I will address. Right. Now, what is the third service here? Sorry, what is the third layer here? So it's a storage layer where exactly your data is stored. Okay, and when you load the data into your table, the data is stored in the form of micro partitions. Okay, so I'll show you how the data is organized here. So let's say this is your table, which is having 24 rows, around 24 rows, and your data will be arranged in different micro partitions here, like micro partition 1, 2, 3, 4 here. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is like a small chunks. Micro partition is a small chunks of data to improve your query performance. In other databases, you need to specify to partition the data generally, but in Snowflake, by default, the data is micro partitioned. Okay, and inside the micro partition, the data is stored in the columnar format. Okay, so we'll discuss what is micro partitions and columnar format, but the data is stored in this format in your storage layer actually. And this storage layer is elastic. It will automatically grow and automatically shrink here. Okay, and if you are storing more data, it will automatically allocate the memory. Okay, and when you delete the data, it will automatically shrink. It's not like other databases, like you will define my database size is 10 GB, and then once the 10 GB is reached, you need to extend that. It is not like that. There is no upper limit. You can keep on extending your storage size here. Okay, and this for this storing this data, actually Snowflake uses again the cloud storage. Whether it is if it is running on AWS, it uses AWS storage. If it is running on Azure, it uses Azure storage. Okay, so that is your storage layer here. So now coming to your question, why Snowflake is different from other data warehouses? The first difference I can say is, so you have compute layer and you have a storage layer here, right? Now, the first reason I can say is storage and compute are separated. Storage and compute are separated. So what is the advantage of separating your storage and compute here, right? So let's take other database example, any other database. They sell the compute and storage together. They bind this compute and storage together, and they'll call it as a node. Okay, so let's say previously Teradata was doing that. So you have a compute power, and you have some storage. Like let's say you have a node with 10 GB data, and you have a computing power, let's say, let us call it as virtual warehouse only here also, in Teradata also. So they are selling a node to you. Now your requirement has increased. You want to have 20 GB of data, but you need only one virtual warehouse. That is enough for you. But here for a node, if you purchase a node, again, you are going to get another virtual warehouse, which does not require here. Okay, so I need only 20 GB of data and one virtual warehouse, but because that compute and storage are binded together, again I need to use one more virtual warehouse. I mean, I need to pay for one more virtual warehouse here, right? So that way, this is not comfortable for me, right? But when the storage and compute are separated in Snowflake, if you want to increase the storage, you can increase the storage. If you want to increase the compute, you can increase the compute. So that is the one of the major difference, architectural difference of Snowflake with other data warehouses. Okay, so this is one reason I can say, like Snowflake, you have this flexibility. And coming to the other flexibilities, so I have listed out here. So first one is storage and computer separated, and second thing is automatic partitioning. So I told you, when you create a table, so automatically the data is partitioned. Okay, so because of that, your query performance will improve. So we'll see how that is done. And you have this ability to choose t-shirt size, compute power based on data load pattern, and save cost by pausing a warehouse. So it's like a switch on and switch off. You can pause the warehouse, you can switch on the warehouse. You have that options here. Okay, so now the warehouse is running. Okay, so if you want to suspend the warehouse, I can execute a command, alter warehouse and suspend, switch off the warehouse. Okay, and after that, again I can switch on the warehouse, and you can choose the t-shirt size virtual warehouses. Okay, t-shirt size based virtual warehouses depending on the query load here. So let's say you're using a complex query, maybe I will go for medium, large, extra large. So like this, you have 6x large virtual warehouse, which is very huge. Okay, so that flexibility you have. And you can also distribute the workload among many virtual warehouses and auto scale to handle surges in load and concurrency while maintaining performance SLAs. So let's say what happens when, let's say you have 100 ETL jobs running on your Snowflake, right? So I used to observe whenever I worked with legacy databases, I used to observe when those production jobs are running, if I query on some tables, it used to take a lot of time, and I used to get an email from DBA, please resist to submit the queries during this time because some background jobs are running. What is the reason for that generally? Any guesses? So what happens that time is my query and those background ETL jobs both will be competing for the same resources, same compute resources, right? So that is the problem there. Now here you can create multiple virtual warehouses and create the distribute the workload. So see here, this compute WH is one virtual warehouse, but I can create my own virtual warehouse for ETL job. I can create one more virtual warehouse for data science people. I can create one more virtual warehouse for reporting people. I can create one more virtual warehouse for developers, right? So I can distribute the workload so that multiple people will not compete for the same resources, so that your query responses will be faster. So that's what the speciality of Snowflake here. Okay, and there are other advantages, like there are some features called zero data copy cloning and data sharing. Okay, so ability to ingest semi-structured data, like you can ingest JSON Avro data also here. So these are all the differences that making Snowflake stand out from other databases here. Okay, other databases are data warehouses here. Okay, so clear guys about this Snowflake architecture and its special features. Are any questions here? Okay. Yeah, thank you. Right. So now let's switch back to this is all theoretical part, guys. So let us switch back to practical thing. Let us try to understand once you create your Snowflake account, right? How the setup will be done. So you have created your Snowflake account for the organization, and now you need to do the setup here, right? So how to do that setup and what are the objects involved? So let's try to understand those objects here. Okay. So this is the object hierarchy, guys, of your Snowflake account. Okay. So initially you'll have a Snowflake account that we have created through the trial, right? So you have a Snowflake account, and inside that you have users, roles, databases, warehouses, and there are other objects. And inside database you'll have schema, and inside schema you'll have tables, views, stages, stored procedures, user defined functions, and other objects. So we are going to discuss about each and every object. Okay, each and every object here, right? First, let us understand what is a database and what is a schema here. Okay, I'll give you one example. Okay, so what I'll do here, let us think this database as a big container. Okay, so let us assume I am setting up a development environment where developers needs to work. So I'll create a database called development dev, right? And inside this database, I'm going to create schemas. So why I need to create schemas is to logically separate the data from different sources. Let's say I'm getting the products information or sales information. I'll create a schema for all the let's say I'm getting the data from Oracle database, which is having all the products related information. So I'll create a schema for products and I'll create the table under it. Okay, and let's say I'm creating employee details or all other information. I'll create another schema called HRMS. Okay, human resource management system, right? So it is coming from a different source, right? So this schema is to logically separate the data from different sources. And database is another big box. Okay, you can think this as a big box. Inside that, your schema is small box. Okay, it's like you're creating a root folder, and inside root folder you're creating multiple subfolders to separate your files, right? So same way, database is a big container. Inside that you will have small containers to logically separate the data inside your schemas. Okay, so let's say you're getting the data from 3 different sources. You can create 3 schemas here. Same way, I'm setting up the test environment here. Okay, so for test environment, what I'll do is I'll create another database called test, a big container, and inside that I'm going to create the same kind of schemas. Okay. Copy. Sorry. Let us. So this is test database, and it will have same set of schemas here, right? Products, but this is a test environment. That is assume. So I can maintain two environments, development and test, in a single database here. Okay, so this is a database, this is a schema, right? So if you want to see that in here, so this symbol is for database. Okay, so when I expand this database, you'll have schemas here. So these are all schemas here. Okay, so these are all schemas. Inside schema, if I expand, you'll have different objects like tables, views, stages, types, streams, tasks, functions, and procedures. So we are going to discuss all of them in separate sessions actually. Okay, so if I expand tables here, these are all the tables here. Okay, so this is the hierarchy, the high level hierarchy of your Snowflake. Okay, so you have a database, you have a schema, and you have all other objects inside. Okay, right. Now coming to the user. So what is a user? Okay, why we need user and what is a role? Okay, so let us assume a new developer joined in my team. Okay, I'm an administrator. Okay, I'm an administrator. I have access to this development databases, this product schema. I have created it. Okay, product and HRMS, everything I have created. And let us assume a new developer joined in my team. Okay, so my user ID is this. My user ID which I have logged in initially is this. Okay, right? Now a new developer joined in my team. So first, what I need to provide to him, right? First, I need to provide a username and password. Okay, I need to provide a username and password so that he can log in into my Snowflake account first. Okay, so a user will always have a username and password, right? And what is the role here? So this is really important to understand. What is the role here? Okay, so this role is a set of privileges here. Okay, so let us assume there are 10 developers joined in my team. So first one developer joined in my team. I need to create a username and password for him. After that, I need to give some access on these databases and schemas to this developer. Let's say I have given access on all the databases and schemas I have created to this particular developer one. Now let us assume a new developer joined in my team, developer 2. Now I need to repeat the same task, right? I need to give the access on the databases, schemas. Maybe I might be having 100 tables. So I need to give access on 100 tables. So for that, I need to execute some statements called grant statements. Let's say developer 3 joined in my team. Again, I need to repeat the same stuff, right? So instead of repeating this stuff, what I can do is I can create an object called role. Okay, I'll remove all these things now. I'll create an object called role, and that role will hold all these accesses. Okay, so let us call the role as dev role, and this role will be having access to your databases and schemas once. So I will give the access to this particular database and schemas. So whenever a developer joined in my team, simply just I'll give the access to this developer role only, a single statement. Okay, so all will get equal access now. So everyone will be assigned with a role here. Every user will be assigned with a role here. So a role is a set of privileges. Okay, let's say select access on a database schema, or maybe select access on a table, insert access on table, delete access on table. So all these things are your privileges here. So a role is set of such privileges, and that role will be granted to these particular users here. Okay, so this is a role. It is like when you're joining, let's say you're joining as a data engineer. you have some set of roles and responsibilities. Let's say you're joining as a data scientist, you have other set of roles and responsibilities. Same thing like that. Okay, you have some set of responsibilities. So always a user is assigned with a role here. Okay, so this is like your user and role here. Okay, user and role here, and we are going to discuss multiple things about role. And what is the warehouse here? So a warehouse is a computing power given by Snowflake, right? So you can create a warehouse on your own warehouse. Okay, so first let us create a user and role. I'll show you how to create a user and role, and then I'll go to warehouse. Okay, so practically if you want to create a user and role, you can simply say create user, test user. Okay, you need to give the password. Okay, password equal to test 1 2 3. Now password, right? I have created this user. If I want to log in with this particular user ID, I need to open an incognito window because already I am have something. So I need to open an incognito window to log in with this particular user ID because I have already logged in with that. I need the URL. So this URL. Okay, test underscore user, right? Let me see with which user. Yeah. So now see, I logged in with test user here. Okay. So now I can open a worksheet here. Okay. See, this guy is not seeing anything here, any database. I mean, only the sample database he is able to see. Nothing is there. Okay. So even he does not have a warehouse. Nothing. Okay. Now, after creating a user, I am going to create a role. Okay. So create role. Let us call the role as tester role. Okay, and just create the role. Okay, it's an empty role. I did not give any permission, and you can assign that particular role to this particular user. So how you can do that? Grant role, tester role to user, test user. Okay, so as soon as you grant this guy can see that role here. Okay, so I'll refresh this. So where you can select a role is here actually. Okay, so there is a dummy role that will be public role. This is a dummy role that will be given to everyone. But see here, this is the role I have given to him. So I can choose this role now. Okay, so this is what your role is. Just this is an empty role. I did not give any permissions. So in the diagram I was saying, when you create a role, you'll give some permissions, but I have not given any permissions now. Okay, so this is an empty role I have created. Something like I did not give any permissions here and assigned it to the testing thing. Okay, so clear guys, what is the user and role? Are any questions here? Okay. Right. So let's go back to a virtual warehouse. So you can also create a virtual warehouse, your own virtual warehouse by using the create warehouse command. Okay, so I'll show you that command later. But this is the overall hierarchy guys. So first you will have an account and you will have all the account level objects. So these are account level objects and these are schema level objects here. Okay, clear? Right. Now let us concentrate on this role first. Okay, this object. It has a lot of significance. And Snowflake has provided some predefined roles. Okay, or you can also create your own roles called custom roles. Okay, so first let us discuss what Snowflake has provided, what Snowflake is giving to us, and then we'll discuss the custom roles. Okay, so now let's go to the role hierarchy. Okay, so in this role hierarchy, you have all these blue colored boxes are your predefined roles. So you have account admin, you have security admin, you have system administrator, you have user admin, you have public role. Okay, so these are all your predefined roles given by Snowflake. So whenever I open my Snowflake user interface, you can see the role here. Okay, so I logged in with my user, my root account user. Okay, but you can see that when you open the worksheet, you can see the role here in this dropdown. So see here, these many roles I have. A user can have multiple roles. There is no problem in that. A user can have multiple roles here. Okay, so I have multiple roles here. So currently I'm with account admin role. Okay, maybe I can choose sysadmin role, or I can choose user admin role. I can choose some other role here. Okay, so you can choose any admin any role here actually. So first let us try to understand what is account admin role, right? So account admin role is a elevated privileges role. So you have every access on your account. Okay, and this will not be given access to everyone. Okay, so generally developers will not get this access. Generally a database administrator will hold this role with him. Okay, so because of the account admin role, you can do anything on your account. Okay, so we'll discuss this later. First let us come to sysadmin role. Okay, what is this sysadmin role? The sysadmin role is the child role of your account admin, and it has the privileges to create virtual warehouses, databases, and other objects in an account. Okay, so if you see this particular diagram, a sysadmin can create database, a warehouse, a schema, and all other objects inside it. So these boxes can be created by your system administrator here. Okay, so let's do that. I will change my role to sysadmin here. Okay, now I am going to create a database. So the command for creating a database is create database db1. So as soon as you create a database, you can see the database in the left hand side. If I refresh now, so it will show the database in the left hand side. So this is the database I have created just now. And who has created it? If you see the owner here, sysadmin. Okay, so sysadmin is the owner of your database here. Okay, and if I want to create a schema, right, I can also write a command like create schema. Okay, so before that I will expand this database, and there are two schemas, two predefined schemas already existing. Okay, so what is this schema information schema? So I was saying our cloud services layer is responsible for metadata management. So that metadata will be stored in this particular information schema. Okay, and public is a dummy schema created for every database that you create. Okay, it's a dummy schema. Now I want to create my own schema here, right? So if I want to create my own schema, I'll say create schema, right? Create schema db1 dot schema1. Okay, so now I'll refresh. You'll see a schema here, db1 schema1. And when I expand the schema1, you have all other objects. And when I expand these tables, there is no table here. So now let us try to create a table here. Okay, I'll say create table db1 dot schema1 dot emp employee id integer, employee name. So I'm going to create a table here. So when I refresh it, generally you'll see the table here. Exactly. So good question. Is it mandatory to write a database name dot schema name? Yes, it is mandatory. Otherwise, if you don't write it here, database name dot schema name while creating the table, so it will take from this particular drop down. Okay, in this session, you can choose database 1 and schema 1 here. So if you set this, when I say create table EFB, it will be creating in database 1 dot schema 1. But if you did not select anything here, you need to mention database and schema name. Okay, so for better understanding, every time I am giving database name dot schema name, but if I am not giving it, it will take it from here. Okay, so your database will be here, your schema will be here, and your role will be here, and your virtual warehouse will be here. Okay, like this. And yeah, so your sysadmin is doing this, your database, schema, and table, and your sysadmin is also responsible for creating a virtual warehouse. So he can create his own virtual warehouse. So I'll show you how the syntax looks like here. Right. So this is the syntax for creating your virtual warehouse. And if you see here, you'll say create or replace warehouse, some warehouse name with what is the warehouse size. So I told you, you can choose the t-shirt size virtual warehouse. So I'm choosing large here. And there are some parameters here. Initially suspended equal to true, auto resume equal to true, auto suspend equal to true, but then 300. So let's see what are these parameters. So first I'll create the virtual warehouse. And as soon as I create the virtual warehouse, automatically that in this drop down here it will change. Okay, so now it is compute WH, which is given by Snowflake by default, but I'm creating my own virtual warehouse here, right? So dev warehouse is changed and its size is large here, and it is created in suspended mode. Why it is created in suspended mode? Because I have given initially suspended equal to true. So I'm saying as soon as I create my virtual warehouse, don't run it. And what does this auto resume equal to true? So when I am submitting some query on this virtual warehouse, automatically resume your warehouse and run it. So now see, I'll submit some query. I'll do select star from. Yeah, initially suspended means, see, now I have created the virtual warehouse, but it is not running. See, development warehouse is suspended. That means as soon as I create my virtual warehouse, don't switch on it. So that's what it means. Initially suspended equal to true. Okay. Now auto resume equal to true means as soon as I submit a query, it should switch on. So let's see what will happen. So it will switch on and this will come into green color actually. See, this is started. So it has resumed and submitted my query. It has brought the data, right? So still it is running. Started means it is running. Now, when this virtual warehouse should go into suspended mode, so that will be determined by your auto suspend option. So when you give auto suspend equal to 300, it will wait for 5 minutes. And if it is idle for continuously 5 minutes, it will be suspended. Okay, 300 seconds means 5 minutes. So after 5 minutes, it will be automatically suspended here. So these are the three properties of your virtual warehouse, but we are going to discuss multiple more properties on the virtual warehouse later. Okay, but here I wanted to show you a system administrator can create his own virtual warehouse, database, schema, and table here. Okay, so if you see this particular hierarchy here, you can create a database, schema, and a virtual warehouse. So these three boxes and all these boxes a sysadmin can create here. Okay, and this cannot be done with other role like security admin. When I change it to security admin, right? So you cannot run like create database DB2. If you run it, it will say you don't have the permission to do that. So it says insufficient privileges to operate on account. Okay, because security admin is not designated for creating a database. It's the responsibility of system administrator. Okay, clear guys? Till here the responsibility of sys administrator.
So we know, like, so in general, in the real time, so which roles we get as a developer?
As a developer, you
it's
get system administrator, and the account admin and security admin. Other roles will be your administrator, DBA.
Okay.
Okay. Sometimes, in some cases, they want more restriction, so they don't give even sys administrator. They'll create a custom role called let's say development role, which I have shown in the diagram, and they'll give you maybe create database, create schema access, but they want to restrict this particular create warehouse access. So that is also possible. So individual privileges also there will be.
Okay. So that will be done by custom roles, right?
Exactly. So we are going to discuss that custom rules, how we can give that privilege.
And here auto suspend is there, right? So like the formality should be in seconds only, or like can we give in other
It is in
minutes
seconds.
and
It is in seconds.
okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, guys? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So we'll discuss the other roles in tomorrow's session, guys. I'm stopping it here today. We'll discuss the what is security admin role and what is the power of account admin role, how we can delegate the privileges to a custom role. So all these things like the admin activities. So we are going to discuss it tomorrow session. So please join at the same time tomorrow. Thank you.
This conference will now be recorded.